going on, YouTube? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Restorations with Vic. Today we are going to be customizing these white Pure Money 4's into a Stash themed colorway. For those of you who are not familiar with Stash, he's a dope graffiti artist that's done a ton of collaborations with other shoe brands in the past. I don't want to reveal too much what I'm going to be doing to this shoe, but this custom is going to consist of 4 colors: gray, dark gray, light blue, and navy blue. There's also going to be some stencil work involved and possibly some new patches for these 4's. Without further ado, let's get to it. First step we're going to do to get started with this custom is remove these shoelaces and get started with the prep work. We're going to be using acetone and cotton balls to remove the factory finish before we start laying down the paint. Leather's nicely prepped. The next step we're going to move on to is taping off the midsoles and soles, so then afterwards we can lay down the first color. Shoes are taped up and prepped. We're ready to start painting. The first color we're gonna lay down is this light gray color. The colors I used to achieve it was gray and beige. Pretty much we're just gonna apply it using this angular brush on this part of the uppers. All done laying down the gray, looks nice and matte. Moving on to the next color is this light blue. It's pretty vibrant and it has a little metallic in it. We're gonna be laying down that color with the same angular brush on the top portion of the uppers. Blue's fully laid down. Took a few coats and a little time, but it's looking good. Moving on to the third color is this navy blue that's gonna go on the uppers. Alright guys, a quick little update on where we're at. We got the majority of the navy blue laid down. Looks really nice. I love the finish on it. Still got lots to go, like the netting, the tongues, a lot of detail work, so let's keep it moving. Navy blue is nicely laid down on the leather. The next step we're going to move on to is the netting. For these areas, we're going to be using the airbrush instead of the paintbrush for a cleaner finish. The first step you got to do is tape around the netting so we can lay down the paint. shoes are taped up, napkined up. This is seriously the most annoying step when it comes to a custom. I've been taping up the shoe for the last 45 minutes, but it's gotta be done. Moving on, we're gonna be using the same navy blue paint that I used for the leather, mixed with some too thin, so it could be airbrush ready. Let's take a closer look at the areas that I taped off. Bottoms are taped off, pretty much the entire uppers are taped off except for the netting and the insides. The insides were the most annoying part since we don't want to get any paint on those areas since it is a white sock liner. What song do you want me to sing?
Sing your favorite Beatles song.
Alright. Yeah, I need some music to really f***ing sing.
Alright, Vick.
Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better.
Go, Vick.
Then it's fully painted, it looks nice and flat. Now to ensure this paint doesn't come off, we gotta go outside and spray some Krylon matte finish. Let me tell y'all a story about this Krylon matte finish. Right. Tape is fully off, finishers are dried. For now, we're all done with the uppers. Looks really good, but as you can see, the tongues still need some work. We still gotta lay down some more navy blue around the patches and do something with these patches. But for now, we're gonna leave this alone and move on to these midsoles. First step we gotta do, once again, is tape off the uppers and the bottom portion. Shoes are taped up, we're ready for paint. We'll be using this dark gray color and an angular brush. Gray's nicely laid down. On to the next step on these midsoles. We're gonna be adding a splatter effect using the same blue paint we use on the uppers, using the toothbrush method. But first, once more, we gotta tape off the uppers using some tape and napkins. We're in the shipping office, shoes are taped up. Let's lay down some speckles.
Some what?
Some stencils.
Some what?
Some speckles. Alright guys, tape is fully off. I absolutely do not like how these midsoles turned out. It came out clean, but I don't like the colors, I do not like the speckles. It was a mistake. Luckily, it's one we could fix. So what we're gonna do next is tape off the uppers once again, strip off this paint, and redo them with a different color. Let's do it. Alright guys, shoes are fully taped up, uppers and soles. Now let's remove this paint using some acetone and cotton balls. Alright, paint wiped off fairly easy. Now we're gonna remove this tape, retape the uppers and soles this time so we can repaint with this lighter gray. Alright guys, shoes are taped up once again. Using this light gray color, we're gonna cover up the entire midsole, not just the top portion. I think it's gonna look better that way. We're gonna be applying it using this angular brush. Alrighty guys, gray is fully laid down. In my opinion, it looks a lot better than the other color we used. It goes with the shoe a lot better. I did not touch up the air units. I'm gonna do that later. Next step we're gonna move on to is covering up the uppers. So we can use the toothbrush method once again to lay down a splatter effect, using the navy blue that we used on the uppers this time. All right, all done with the midsoles. Went ahead and did some touch-ups all around the shoe. Looks good. Now let's move on back to the tongues. Next step we're gonna move on to, using an X-Acto knife, we're gonna chop off the patch real carefully so we don't damage the leather on the tongue. Boom. Patches are fully off. Tongues look good, no damage done at all. Next step we're gonna do, using these two little fingers, is remove the little threads. Patches are fully off, moving on. Next step we're gonna do is tape around the sock liners, actually tape off the sock liners. The reason I'm gonna do that is so we don't get any paint that I'm gonna get on the tongues, on the sock liners by accident. Air units are complete. That's gonna complete the midsoles and the majority of the uppers. For now, we're gonna put the shoe to the side and work on these custom laser engraved stash patches. Shout out to my guy D-Nice Customs for making these for me. He does a bunch of stencils, custom patches, laser engraving, and so much more. Follow him on Instagram to get your stencils and whatever else you need for customs. So what we're gonna do next is prep it using acetone and cotton balls. We're lightly gonna go over it so we can paint it. Patches are ready to go. Using the same gray paint we used on the toe box, we're gonna lay it down using an angular brush. All right, patch is fully painted. On to the next step, which is using this blue paint that we use on the uppers to paint the stash letters. We're gonna be using two different brushes, this spotter brush and this little angular brush. All right, stash letters are fully painted. It didn't take as long as I expected. Came out nice and perfect. Factory looking if you ask me, but let's keep it moving. The next step we're gonna move on to is laying this old Jumpman tag over the leather patch. The reason why we're gonna do that is so we can replicate the holes, so we can know where the threading is gonna go when we insert the thread onto the shoe. Pretty much what I'm gonna do is grab a needle, place the tag over the leather patch, nice and evenly and perfect. Using the needle, we're just gonna poke holes where the previous holes were. Real easy. All right, we get the holes traced. Pretty much what we're gonna do next, using a little needle and some blue threading that matches the stash letters. we're just gonna apply the stitching. It's a really long step and tedious, but pretty simple. All right, finally, an hour later, got the stitching in all over the patch. Looks good, lines, whoops. Now the next step we're gonna move on to is applying this patch onto the tongue. Now some of you may ask, why didn't I just sew the patch onto the shoe? Well, there's two reasons. One, it would have been too complicated and I would have not got straight lines like this. And the second reason is because the stitching would have been all over the back of the tongue and it would have just looked unprofessional and ugly. So what we're gonna do is just glue it on using bar cement. It'll hold up just as good as if we were gonna stitch it onto the tongue. Let's do it. But first step we gotta do is tape around this square so we can apply the glue using some Q-tips. All right, shoes taped up. What we're gonna do is apply some bar cement glue onto the patch and the tongue. Let it cure for 7 minutes, then we'll clamp it together. Let's clamp.
Give me a live play-by-play as the clamping goes.
All right, it's laying down, still laying down, and it's laid down. All right guys, patches are down, came out perfect. That's about it with this custom. Looks dope, looks sick. Colors are all laid down, patches are down, everything looks good. Now the very last thing I'm gonna do before we lace these shoes up is go outside and protect the shoe using some Krylon matte finish. All right, my dudes, that is gonna bring us to an end on these custom Air Jordan 4 stashes. Honestly, I know I say this about my work all the time, but these shoes came out freaking sick. They're in my top 5 for sure of customs that I've ever done. I just like how the colors go nice together. Everything about the shoe screams awesome. My favorite part about the custom is the speckled midsoles, the chrome accents that complement the rest of the colors really nicely, and of course, the stash patches. Pretty much what I did in this custom was redid the entire midsoles with the gray color, added a navy blue speckle job, added like a grayish, tannish gray on the toe box, added a metallic blue on the uppers, navy blue on the top uppers, stash patches. That probably took the longest out of everything because I had to go in, paint the entire patch, paint the stash, and add simulated stitching. But all in all, this custom kicks ass. I really hope Mr. Stash checks out this video because I think he'll be proud of this one. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're going to continue to bring that heat every single Monday and Thursday. Also, subscribe and like this video because it helps the channel grow and it'll help us continue to bring these dope videos for you guys. This is Vic. I'll see you guys next Monday.